All right, so today we are going to start talking about what we're going to be doing with these block letters you guys have been practicing, okay? And what we're going to be doing is something called 1 point perspective, okay? So what that means is we're going to use 1 point to show a perspective, okay? Who knows what perspective means? Shane? Exactly. Okay, so the way you see something, okay? And we're going to use 1 point, 1 vanishing point, to get this to work. Okay, so essentially what this means is we're going to use this to make it look three-dimensional. Okay, so we're going to use 1 point. So what does that point mean? We're going to use something called a vanishing point. Okay, and all it is a dot. Okay, so I'm going to draw a point right here, and this is called a vanishing point. Okay, so if I'm using a vanishing point, all of my three-dimensional lines are going to end up right there at that spot. Okay, so that's going to help me make things look really consistent and really three-dimensional. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there for a second, and I'm going to talk about the block letter again, just to sort of reiterate what we've been talking about. Okay, so if I'm going to draw a block letter or a couple letters, I'm going to start off with a line, right? Bottom line, top line. You're going to need some sides. You can put your middle line wherever you want it. Okay? I'm just going to draw 2 letters right here, and they're going to be pretty spaced out. So this is going to be 1 letter, and this is going to be my other letter. Okay, just for demonstration purposes. Let me draw a little darker. I noticed on my videos that I need to draw a little darker. Okay, so these are my letters. This is actually going to be a space. Okay, so I can erase this. And I want to leave a big space so you can kind of see how these lines to the vanishing point work. Okay, so within these spaces, I'm going to draw a curved letter and a really straight letter. Okay, the first one I'm going to do is an H. So it has a lot of really nice straight lines in it. Okay, got my H. Darken my lines. Always remember to draw light at first and darken at the end once you know you have all your lines in the right place. If you all could just please quietly listen and watch, that would be awesome. And on this side, I'm going to draw a C. Okay, so I'm going to round off my corners. So I have almost an O. That. Try to keep my same thickness that I used on the H. I need to go a little thicker down at the bottom. And then I'm just going to draw a flat line to get my C. Yeah, it did. So I start all my curved letters like that. I start S's, C's, G's, O's, Q's. I start them all as if they're just going to be an O. Well, just take some practice. Okay, so there's my C. So now, what do we do with this vanishing point? Okay, a lot of you I've seen trying to draw, like just playing around trying to draw a 3D letter, right? Maybe you draw an H like this. And then all you do is you just add like some lines around it, right? And those lines, you don't necessarily make them go towards anything. You just kind of add them in there, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to use this vanishing point so that all of our lines go to the same spot, okay? So if I am going to draw my lines from my H, I'm going to look at all of these corners, okay? So I'm going to look at each corner, and I'm going to decide if it needs a line or not. And the way I decide is if my line goes directly through the letter, I don't need one. Okay, so if I'm going to draw to my vanishing point from this corner right here, it's going to go just through the letter. Does that make sense? I don't want a line through my letter. I just worked hard to get that letter look really nice, so I don't need that line right there. Okay? If I go to do this one, if I line up to my vanishing point, that would go through the letter. right? So I don't need it, okay? However, this one, I can draw a little bit, not through the letter. So I'm going to look at my vanishing point, and I'm going to draw that line just until it hits the letter again. Okay, does that make sense? Now I'm going to go to this side. Okay, I'm going to look at my vanishing point. I'm going to imagine a line going up through here, and I'm going to draw a line until it hits the next letter, and then I'm going to stop. Okay, I'm going to go to my next corner. I've got a lot of space here, right? So this one, I'm going to draw a line. I'm not going to go all the way, but you can see how that would go all the way to that point, right? I'm following it. It goes pretty straight. Okay, I'm going to go to this side. Same thing. Draw a line that goes towards the vanishing point. Okay? I'm going to do the same thing from these two. They're going to start getting a little more angled. Okay? Towards the vanishing point. This one. Towards the vanishing point. Okay, am I missing any? Yes. I'm missing this corner right here, right? Because if I look towards my vanishing point, I have a little space right here I can draw a line. Okay? So now what do I do with all of that? Okay, now I have all the lines I need. I just need to draw where those lines stop. Okay, so I'm going to decide how thick I want this H to look. And I'm going to say that I want these lines to stop just right before the C, so I have a little bit of a gap in between the two letters. So from this line to this line, I'm going to draw the same line that I have from this corner to this corner, okay, because that's where those lines came from, right? So you have to follow those lines back. You have to look at the line in between the two corners, and I have a nice vertical line, right? So I'm going to go right over here, and I'm going to draw another nice vertical line. Okay? Now I need to draw from this one to this one, and I'm going to start where I just ended that line. Okay? So I'm going to look, follow my lines back. I have a nice horizontal line. So from that corner, I'm going to draw a really nice horizontal line. Okay? So then when I get rid of these, you can see that that's looking three-dimensional. Okay? This part's pretty tricky, okay, because I actually have a gap in between this corner and this corner. You guys see that? So I have to leave a little gap right there. Okay, so I'm going to skip this part for right now, and I'm going to move over to this part. So I know right now that these two lines are in line with one another. Do you guys see that? They're along the same line. So all I have to do is I'm going to take this same line right here, and I'm just going to skip that little gap, and I'm going to draw another horizontal line because that's what I have right there. Okay? And I can erase all of this. So now what do we do with that gap? I'm going to look at my letter, and from this corner right here, if I follow that back, what happens right here? There's a vertical line, right? So from this corner, if I follow that back in this corner, there's a vertical line. So right there, just a little vertical line. Okay? And that's my H. Okay, I have that all done. So what do we do on a letter that has curved edges? Okay? I don't have a corner over here to draw from. I don't have a corner up here to draw from. So what you want to do, pay attention please. What you want to do is you want your line, when you're drawing it, to touch the very furthest part out. Right? So I'm going to grab... Where'd it go? I'll just use this paper. My ruler disappeared.
It's on your right.
That's a yardstick. I don't think I can fit a yardstick on my table. Okay? That's actually 4 feet. It's more than a yard. Okay? So I'm going to imagine this line coming from my vanishing point, and it's just going to barely touch the outside of that curve right there. You guys see that? So this part of the curve is right where I'm going to draw my line from. So this line is going to look something like that. Okay? Now, I don't have anything right here to draw from. I can't just draw a line to the middle of a curve. That doesn't make any sense. The only time you draw from a curve is if it's on the outside of the letter where the line would just touch the edge of it. Right? If I draw a line to this curve, I'm not just going to touch the edge of it. I'm going to run right into it. Okay, so I don't need one right there. I do need one from from this top curve because my line would just go right next to it. Okay? So I'm going to imagine my line coming up and just barely touching that curve. Okay? Now I have a corner right here. I can draw that corner towards the vanishing point. I have another corner right here. I can draw towards the vanishing point. I've got another corner right here. I can draw towards the vanishing point. Okay? This corner would go through the letter, so I don't need to do anything there. Okay? This curve inside, I would have to draw through the letter to get to it, so I don't need anything there. And this curve up here, I would have to draw through the letter, so I don't need anything from there. Okay? So this is where it's a little bit tricky. Okay? Over here, I just had straight lines to draw. Okay? Please sit down. Please sit down. I had straight lines to draw, so that was a little tricky. On this one, I'm going to have to match this exact curve. Okay? So before I do that, I need to know how thick to make this letter. So what you need to do is look at how these two letters are next to each other. So I know that I drew this line straight across. So I know that this letter isn't going to go any further than this one. So I'm going to draw this line just over a little bit, nice and light, so I can erase it later. My C is not going to go past that second line. Okay, if you can't see that, I'm going to draw a little darker. Okay, so now I need to draw this curve from where my line touches right there to where this line touches right there. I'm going to draw this same exact curve, just like that. Okay, so I'm going to start a little bit above my line. I'm going to curve down and touch it, and then go right back up just like this line. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing from this top curve. This one's very short. I'm going to make it be in line with this because the fronts of my C are in line. So these are going to be in line. So this C is going to have a short little curve like that. And then I have a horizontal line just like that. Okay? So here is my three-dimensional C next to my three-dimensional H. Yeah, so it depends on how thick you made it. You're right, I probably can draw. So I have this amount of thickness from my C, right? So I have this amount to do, right? From here to here, yeah, maybe, right? I can maybe go like this, a little bit inside. But that almost looks a little funky. So I may or may not. If I had made this C really thin, like this, then I would have had the inside of this C look like this. Right? It just depends on how thick you make it. So that's the same reason I didn't do anything on the inside of the H over here, right? Because this thickness is greater than this thickness. So you just have to play with it and see what looks best. Okay? So this is, again, 1 point perspective. I'm using a vanishing point for all of my lines. Okay, I wouldn't come up here and draw a line this way, right? That doesn't make any sense because I don't have a vanishing point up here. My vanishing point is down here, and all those lines go to 1 point. That's why we call it 1 point perspective. If you start using other points, you completely throw off the whole thing. Okay, you only use the 1 point, and if this was a final draft, I would want that point to be very light because I would erase it eventually. Okay? Questions? So I just want you to draw one letter at a time. I would maybe, on your blank sheet of sketch paper, I would make a vanishing point, and I would just draw a bunch of letters around it, around your paper, and just try to use that 1 point for all of them. Okay? Okay.